Welcome to Elite Yoga. Today we are doing our practice starting on our back. I'm Claire. Nice to meet you. We have been doing this for a few weeks now, but I've been teaching yoga for over 20 years and I've been practicing for 30 years. And I've worked with a lot of elite athletes, the Sydney Swans for 12 years and Cyclismo, a riding group, for also 12 years. And I'm going to get you started. So come on down on your back. My personal history, I was a professional dancer, so I've had a lot of injuries myself and worked out how to fix them. Starting on your back with your legs together, making sure that they're not off to one side or flopped around. Your knees are pointing up, and you're going to take your left knee up to the ceiling with your shin parallel, and your right hand on the outside of your knee. You're going to turn your pelvis and your lower back to the right while you have your left arm out to the side in line with your shoulder. So you're not trying to pull on your leg. You're going to lift from the tail to the navel, so drawing the muscles in from the tail to the navel, in and up towards the diaphragm. In yoga, we call this mula bandha. It means the root lock of the body. Make sure that the back of the shoulders are on the floor, that you're not lifting this shoulder up in order to take your pelvis further. Okay, so the correct posture is to have both the backs of the shoulders down on the floor, reaching out through your hand, up through your head, and down through your sit bones. Come on back and then have your legs together first, and then draw your right knee up and taking your left hand on the outside of your knee, turning your pelvis gently to the left with the back of both shoulders down on the floor. Make sure your arm's not up here or down there. It's in line with your shoulder. Yoga works on the nervous system. So as an athlete, I'm sure you know that sometimes you have a little niggle behind your knee, then all of a sudden it's gone and it's gone down to your ankle, feels really tight. And then the next day it's in your back, and that is like your sciatic nerve, for example. And so these postures, they correct and release, they correct the nervous system if you're doing it right. And I'm teaching you how to do it right. Come on back, and then you're going to place your feet together and your knees together, and crossing your right foot above your left knee, you're going to make sure your pelvis isn't twisted, that you have your hip bones level. And in Pilates, we call this neutral pelvis, which is a very good expression. You're going to rotate this right knee out so it's directing towards the front of your mat. And again, lengthening up through the crown of your head, which is the very top of the head, and down through your sit bones. So you've always got these just gentle stretch in opposite directions of the spine. Muscles from the tail to the navel, draw in and up towards the diaphragm. Pull back your toes, and then you're going to pick up your left foot, reaching through to take the back of the leg or the front of the shin. Make sure your pelvis is down on the floor, that it's not rolled up off the floor. Okay, so pelvis stays down, shoulders stay wide, and it's very continuously, slowly, like micro movements, taking your left knee towards your chest while your right knee is moving out, while you're rolling your pelvis down on the floor. Remember, your pelvis stretches down to the front of your mat. And again, it might feel different to what you're used to. Foot down on the floor, but that is correct action. Arms out to the side, turning your pelvis to the left. And notice we've got your arms, so your palms facing up. So there's that outward rotation of the shoulder girdle. And that outward rotation of your shoulder is helping this whole side open up. Okay? If you get all the way, you can press down your right big toe and open the knee to the front of the mat. Lifting again the muscles from the tail to the navel, in and up. So you're never forcing things. You are using right action and pressing slowly. So you never go beyond, and sometimes you go less than what you did yesterday because you might have had a big ride and you had a little twinge in your knee or something. Okay, it's about being in the moment. Then over time, come on back you're moving forward over time. Feet together and left foot above your right knee. Okay, so you don't grow, you don't get 6 centimeters longer in your hamstring in one day. It's just through practice. The same way you can't go from, 40 k's an hour to 50 k's an hour in one session, like properly, that you can maintain for the rest of your sessions. Okay, so it's the same, just muscles adaptation. Okay, so keeping your pelvis in neutral, left knee is rotating out, which is the same as pressing it towards the front of the mat. Always lengthening up through the head and down through your sit bones. Pull back the left toes. Notice how this side felt to the other side. And then you can pick up your right foot, reaching through or taking hold of the front of the shin and keeping the pelvis down on the floor. Broaden your shoulders, so wide shoulders. Okay. So one of the ways that yoga works on the nervous system is by releasing where something's pressing on a nerve. For example, right now we're stretching your piriformis here on the left piriformis, which is deep within your glutes, and attaches your thigh bone to your pelvis. And if it gets too tight, then your sciatic nerve runs through that muscle and it pinches the nerve. And so you get this radiating pain down where the nerve flows. So it could be through your hamstring. There could be nothing wrong with your hamstring. There usually isn't anything wrong with your hamstring. It could be through your hamstring. You could have lower back pain. You could have a really tight calf or sort of Achilles, because that nerve comes down that way. So this is a great release for the sciatic nerve on the left side. Okay, and your sciatic nerve runs from your L4, L5, that's your lumbar vertebra, and it runs down through that piriformis muscle, down through your hamstring, down your leg. Okay, lifting from the tail to the navel to come back and placing your foot down. However, that is a great start. It will not do everything. You've got to do more, especially as an athlete. I definitely had to do more as an athlete, and after working with a lot of athletes, you've got to do more, not just one stretch. Left leg down. You're going to take your strap or your belt or your towel, that's fine, and put it around the ball of your foot, because it's just there really for you to press into lightly. Okay, you're not pulling on it anyways. Okay, so we'll use the strap later as well. Open your shoulders, hold the strap one side with each hand, and make sure your knee's not turning out to the side. Your knee faces your head here. Left knee points up, engage your left glutes, long spine like you're standing on the floor. So you're lengthening up through the crown, down through the sit bones. Okay, open your toes, press the right ball of your big toe into the strap, a little more than the others. And then it's this mula bandha, the muscles from the tail to the navel, that pull your leg towards you. And you're pressing into the strap gently, spreading your toes. That is really key. As you spread your toes, you are spreading your calf muscles, your hamstring muscles. Okay? And you want to feel elastic. You don't want to feel like you're pulling on your leg here, right? It should feel as you press into the strap that there's an engagement at the same time, and this keeps the attachments safe, where your muscle attaches to your bone. Okay? And now you're going to take the strap in the right hand, put your left hand on your hip, and rotate the leg out to the right. So now, again, it's really important that your sit bones point down to the front of the mat. You've got your spine is always first. Up through the crown of your head, down through your sit bones. You're not trying really hard, like trying to stretch up. It's just a light feeling like you're floating up through the head. Okay? And that actually makes a big difference to your entire nervous system. Reach through your big toe again, and you're pressing into the big toe, and you're taking that leg towards the floor and up towards your head. stretching your inner thighs and inner hamstrings. But again, it should feel elastic. Okay, come on back. Take your leg to 90 or less and take the strap in the left hand and take the leg across you and then start to move into a pelvis rotation. Take your right arm out to the side like we did in the beginning. So you're still pressing your sit bones gently down to the front of your mat. Again, like you're standing on the floor. This is, again, a lower back and pelvis rotation to the left with a sacral nerve stretch. Sacral nerve release, I should say. Okay, the iliotibial band runs down here. Come on back, bending your knee, and other side. So right leg straight, your heel down on the floor, the right knee points up, the right glutes are engaged. Take the strap, align the leg so it's not across here. It is in line with your hip. And Mula Bandha, pressing your left big toe mound away, spreading your toes and broaden your shoulders. Again, think about gently lengthening your spine in opposite directions as you open your toes, as you pull with Mula Bandha, because you're pressing into the strap, creating elastic hamstrings. Elastic hamstrings. And you'll start to feel how the big toe relates more to the inner hamstring and how the central toe to the central hamstring and the last two toes to that last hamstring. So if you pull your toe, if your toes start to get like closer and closer together, all of those muscles get closer and closer together. Spreading your foot is really important. Take the strap in the left hand and open the leg out to the side. And that's something that you want to try to do in your cycling shoes and in it's probably start like just when you walk around, like when you go for a walk or you walk a dog or whatever. Open your toes, open across the ball of your foot is what I'm saying. Long toes, open across the ball of your foot. Get used to that, opening and using your whole foot in the correct way. And then try to do it when you're trading. First when you're doing slow things, and then as you try to do it quickly. Come on back. It'll prevent a lot of unnecessary contractions that create pain. Okay, taking your pelvis to the right with the strap in the right hand, lengthening through your spine, backs of the shoulders down on the floor. And in yoga, we call the things that are on the floor the roots of the pose. And they press down lightly. Okay, come on back and bending your knee. Okay, so we'll come up to sitting and so we're going to cross your legs in this position. So you've got your feet flexed and your knees are a bit closer than normal. Okay, now if that isn't any kind of a stretch for you, then you're going to take this left foot, put it in a bit closer, and then pick up the right one, put it on top like that. The end range of motion for this is you can wiggle that out a little bit more and a little bit more until you are in a double pigeon where one leg is on top of the other. Okay, so this is a much deeper piriformis stretch now, also including the other outer hip muscles. Okay, so I remember when I first started yoga and I was 12 and I'd already done almost 10 years of ballet, and I was red faced and dying in this, and I remember it was really difficult. So that goes away, trying to just breathe out and be at a place. It's much better to be at a place where you're just on the edge of feeling uncomfortable, but not like in excruciating pain. If this is just too much, back it off, back this one off, or just sit like this today and start with it. As a cyclist, you'd be very tight there. We are going to roll your pelvis forwards now in this position as well, which adds another layer of stretching through your piriformis. So for the moment, just keep your hands on your hip bones so you feel that it's your pelvis that's creating the movement. It's the center of the body. Lifting the muscles from the tail to the navel will support your pelvis, because that's the muscles underneath your pelvis, up inside your pelvis, and at the front of the pelvis. And then once you realize that the energy's in the middle of the body, you can just place your hands, because you're not leaning on them. Spread your hands, open your shoulders. Keep your knees gently lowering down. Breathing out. Okay, and come on up. Other side. So starting with your left leg across, or remember, right foot in, and then left leg up on top. And then you can wiggle that around out until you feel like you can sit there, and we'll just stay there, just letting it be for a moment, opening your knees. Notice which side. You might have one knee that's a lot higher. Okay, again, working with athletes, depending on the sport that you do, you might do more than just ride a bike. And riding a bike in this way is quite even, if that's your only sport, but you might have previously done other sports. So as a dancer, I used to do all different types of choreography, and sometimes I would land 1,000 times on one leg, and that leg would get very tight, obviously. So to balance it out, it's about that balance, okay? So nervous system, all the nerves flow off through your legs, down through your feet, or from your upper back, down through your arms, out your fingers. Roll your pelvis forwards, okay? And then again, realizing that energy's in the center of the body, and so you're not leaning. So the roots of the pose are your sit bones, your pelvis, okay? And so they're gently going down and back in this. That's what's creating the movement here in the body. Learning to get used to subtle action is really, really important in yoga. And at first it sounds very strange, some of the things I'm saying, and so just roll with it and you'll get some of it and you won't get all of it, and that's okay. Just keep coming back. Come on up. I remember it sounded like my teachers were speaking a different language. Stretch your right leg forward, and some of it is. It's in Sanskrit, the names of the poses. And now we're going to put your left foot on the other side of that knee. If you can't sit up with a straight back when you press down your sit bones, then you need to be on one of these or a book of similar proportions. You can even get up higher if you're super tight, okay? And so you're sitting up in order to, remember, get your spine in the right place first, okay? So you're sitting up on the block if you need to. You're going to have right knee pointing up, left foot pressing down. You're going to put your left hand behind your back and reach around to the right leg. Open your shoulders. The roots of the pose are your sit bones and your right heel and your left foot. Sit bones press down, right heel presses down, left foot presses down. And you're going to turn your upper back and your neck to the left. So we've done all these pelvis and lower back rotations, and now this is an upper back and neck rotation. And come on back. And so, even though your sciatic nerve, like we talked about, runs from your L4, L5 down through your leg, you'll often find that something's a little off in your upper back, because one thing is always, for example, like here, your upper back and your lats are huge. They cross all the way down. Down here where they connect to a fascia, and you've got your QL muscles that attach to your ribs, and so they're attaching from your ribs to your pelvis. So if there's something tight there, that may begin the sciatic issue. Okay, so that's why the postures are so fantastic in working everything out of your body. Place the soles of your feet together, and so this is the midline of the body. So tail up through your navel, through your sternum, through the middle of the throat, your nose, up through the crown of your head, like you're dividing your body in half through your spine. And then feel here, you're pressing down your sit bones. You're trying to create balance around that. So if one knee's up here, you just need to work on that side until they're even, and then move the knees down to the floor. Okay, so that balance is crucial. Crucial. That's what you're always working for. Right side, left side, even as possible. Open your shoulders. Okay, keep lowering the knees. But press your sit bones down. So you're not getting shorter in the spine while you're trying to lower your knees. You're getting longer in the spine because your sit bones keep moving down while your knees are moving down. And that's where you have to be. Listen to your body's feedback. And come on back. Okay, so we're going to bring your knees together. And we're going to lean back. You're going to lift up your knees. You can reach around towards your ankles here, or like the final position is straight legs and leaning back at 60 degrees with a straight spine. So pressing down your sit bones, getting your big toes together. Yes, it does contract your hip flexors, but it aligns them, which is why we're doing it. Press down your sit bones, pulling up your kneecaps. Touch your big toes and inner heels together. Draw your shoulder blades down so you're activating your lats. And release. Now we're going to go into a split, a side split. We're going to do this one for a couple of weeks. Okay, so take your legs as wide as you can with your knees pointing up, your heels down. And the roots of the pose, your sit bones and your heels, they lightly move down. Now, it's as if you had a strap around the ball of each foot. So it's a bit hard to do, obviously. But as if you had a strap, you'll be spreading and pressing into the strap with your foot, with that big toe a bit more than the others. And you want to think about sucking up your inner thighs, pull up your kneecaps. So again, you're not sitting there just, relaxing your muscles. That's not yoga. I personally find that dangerous kind of stretching. Okay, contraindicated stretching. In yoga, it's about being elastic. And so the muscles have their full range of motion and they're in alignment, in their correct postural alignment. So muscles will pull bones out of place, right? So really a lot of yoga works on the nervous system through what you can consciously change in your muscles. Pulling up your kneecaps, pulling up your inner thighs. Go a little bit deeper if you can. Breathing there. Again, as if you had the strap around the balls of each feet. And then relaxing there. Gently bring your legs in. Okay, then placing your left leg straight. And you're going to take your right knee and look, at the end range of motion is up here near at the top of your thigh bone, right? But if that hurts your knee in any way, then you're not going to go there. You'd be down here, wherever, down. Keep taking it down until your knee doesn't hurt, the joint, okay? So you might, or even if you've had an injury, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be pinching in at the joint, okay? It'll take time for you to change. And a lot of the poses work and help each other. Okay, that's the other thing. Okay, so this leg, remember how we did this double Baddha Konasana? This is like in a single Baddha Konasana, this leg. And the left leg is straight. You're going to put the ball of your foot, the strap around the ball of your foot. And then you're going to open your shoulders. Now, you're going to lift from the tail to the sternum on this one. And the roots of the pose are your right knee when it's pressing down, the whole back of the leg, I should say the side of the leg, your left heel, and your sit bones are the primary mover. So you're going to press your sit bones down gently and back. And because your hamstrings are attached to your sit bone, and that's moving back, right? Your knee stays here and your sit bones are moving back. That's what's lengthening your hamstrings. But you're still pressing forward. So if you took the strap away, you're still pressing it forward with energy. of that foot. Okay, still creating that action yourself with or without a strap. Okay, so the final position is here. This is Janushirasana, and it's by lengthening your spine. Your sternum is reaching forward as your sit bones roll back. In fact, you actually look at your foot in the end. Okay, come on up, and then other side. So this is not a curved back position as you've seen. Left knee bent to an appropriate range for you. Place the strap around the ball of your foot. Okay, so now the right leg. Your sit bones are moving down and back. Your sternum is lifting up and forward. You're stretching towards the foot while your pelvis is moving back. Again, that lengthening in your spine, but your core muscles fully engaged. So again, it's elastic with the back because you're drawing in and up from the tail to the sternum now. From the tail to the sternum, the muscles from the tail to the sternum are drawing in and up. And that in yoga is called Uddiyana Bandha. Right, and that's the end range, shoulders wide, sternum reaching toward your foot. Okay, or the crown of the head feels nice as well. Both of those are acceptable. And then we're going to come up, and that is a huge stretch. So many things. Okay, one, the QLs, your hamstrings, your inner thighs on that side, your back. Okay, coming up to your knees now. Placing your hands so that they face, your fingers point to your knees. Now, we'll tuck your toes under for a moment, just stretching your toes out. Okay, soft elbows, open shoulders, and just press down lightly your hands. So, this, remember, so you don't ever lean on your body, you're lightly pressing down. This is a very important stretch, as I've said previously, for a cyclist that's always contracting these muscles, okay? And that any kind of contraction really affects the nerves that they run through. That they run through. So releasing that, doing the other way is very important. Now, today we're going to then put your knees together and your feet together, and you're now got the tops of your feet down, and you're going to just gently sit down on the top of your foot. Now, we're not leaning on them, right? We're pressing down your shins, and you're spreading your toes. Okay, and that's a good beginning. Some people will be up here. Okay, I've been taught a lot of men for a lot of years, and they'll be just red-faced and dying like this. Okay, and that's fine. You're still trying to press down your shins, and if you're red-faced and dying, then come up a bit further and just get the action in the leg right. All right, and then you might be able to sit down a little bit more and a little bit more over time. Okay, if you're just sitting here and you're like, this is easy as, then you're going to take your feet out, and you're going to take your calf muscles on the inside with your thumbs. Got massive calves, I've been a dancer. Take the calves out and sit down very gently, again, not forcing. And the other thing you can do is actually put the block under your bottom as well. So it's very important that you're gentle and you're gently pressing your big toe mound at the top of your big toe down, and spreading across the top of your foot now. Okay, getting awareness there, getting action through awareness. Draw your knees together, open your shoulders. This is a classic yoga posture called Virasana, and there's few things that will really get into the front shin muscles like Virasana. Nothing else really will. Again, dancing, you really hammer the lower leg, and this has been a saving grace for myself. Anything you can't do, you want to work towards being able to do. Okay, so come forward and place your hands down. It's normal to be feeling a bit stiff in the knees after Virasana, as it sort of squeezes out the blood, and then you get new blood supply when you release the squeeze on the knee. And then we're going to tuck your toes and you're going to lift your hips up into downward dog. Outsides of the feet are parallel to the edge of the mat and a hip width apart. Hands are shoulder distance apart with the middle finger facing forward. And you want to really soften your elbows, open your shoulders, and wrap your shoulder blades down and forward around your ribs while you lift your sit bones up and back. Spine is first, so you won't have your heels down on the ground yet. A lot of people won't, because you need to get your back in a straight line first. Aim for that. Right, come down on your knees, and then we're going to come down on your front and take your right foot with your hand. Now, this is a simple quad stretch. As a cyclist, these will be tight. Pressing your hip bones down, engage your glutes lightly, and feel that the top of the foot spreading, drawing your heel towards your bottom, but with your hip gently pressing down. That's really important. So the glutes are just lightly engaged to align your quad, well, because one of your quads is a hip flexor, to align all the quads so it's correct action. Now, if that is fine and you want to increase the stretch, and this really does increase the stretch, come up on your left elbow and pressing down your right hip first. You're going to put your hand on the top of your foot and draw your heel towards the outside of your hip. It really gets the outside hip flexors as well as the quads a lot more. Now, the glutes have to be a bit more strongly engaged in order to support the hip flexors stretching further and the quads. Okay, other side, and knees together when you do the simple quad stretch, right down the middle. Hip bones gently down. Glutes lightly engaged. Open your toes, drawing your heel towards your hip. Tail down and under. So why do you have to do everything properly? Well, the thing is that to free nerves and to move correctly and not injure yourself, you've got to move properly. Yoga is one method to teach us how to move properly. Come up to your right elbow, left hip, both hips are down, glutes are engaged, hand on top of the foot and taking your heel towards your hip. And then it's not just about moving properly, but also that your body can do all the ranges of motion. So one of the all the sports have upsides and downsides. And one of the downsides to being a cyclist, if that's all you do, is that it's just one range of motion. You can get up off the seat, you can get down, you can change a bit your pelvis, but that's it. Like in terms of making sure all of your body is used, you will need to do something else with it. And yoga is perfect to do. Okay, now we're going to come up to your knees again, and you're going to take your hands, place them shoulder width apart. You're going to tuck your toes again, and you're going to round your back. You're going to curve your back here. Spread your shoulder blades, draw them down towards your hips. And think about pulling your hands down to your knees. Lift your sternum up into your back. So we're curving or flexing your spine, your upper back. Then move the chest forwards and your sit bones up to the ceiling. So your sternum's going forward and up. Your sit bones are lifting, and this is the opposite action, extending your back. Okay, so let's go into flexion again. And then through extension. And then back to neutral, where the crown of the head extends forward, sit bones back. Mula Bandha lifts your pelvis up and back. And this should feel better after doing the hip stretches that we've done. Open your toes, lifting your sit bones up and back.
drawing in and up from the tail to the navel. Come down on your knees or take a big step forward with your left foot and your pelvis coming down and under. Okay, glutes are engaged, as is the case with any lunge. Spread your toes, right knee pointing down, and then lower your knee, and then you're pressing down gently your left foot, rolling your pelvis under. So this is a backwards tilt in the pelvis as you roll your hips towards your ribs, glutes engaged. We're now getting into this deep hip flexor, the psoas plus the other hip flexors. Hip flexor muscles mean that they flex your hip, they bend your hip. If you ride a bike, you're bent at the hip for a very long time and you're pushing resistance too, or going very quickly. That's more and more reps. And then if you sit for a living as well, you can imagine these get tight. It's a very relieving exercise. Hands down, go back to downward dog. You might find relief by doing this throughout your day as well. Right foot forward and pressing down the right foot, right knee on top of right ankle, knee over the center of the foot, left knee points down. Backwards tilt your pelvis, engage your glutes, lift from the tail to the navel, spread your shoulders. Okay, long lunge first, then lower your knee. Keep your toes tucked for the moment, pelvis down and under, and that is your left psoas. So the deepest psoas, the deepest hip flexor is called your psoas, the psoas major, psoas minor, and that has an insertion. It goes through into your spine, like on the inside, if you can imagine the inside of the vertebra. So literally, your thigh bone's pulling on your back. So you can see that muscle is really important to keep free. Hands down and step back to downward dog. It's very important that the child you are, that you do not try to stretch incorrectly. Okay, then from there, you're going to step your right knee forward into a single pigeon pose. So this left hip must point down to the ground, okay? And so, as I've explained many times, that this foot has to come in further and further so that your left knee can point down. Left hip and knee can point down. Then over time you take it out further until this is the end range of motion, 90 degrees. Okay, so lift from the tail to the navel. Your right knee is turning out. Press down the top of your left foot and reach it back. You'll feel your kneecap pull up. Your left glutes need to be engaged to align your left psoas again. So this is another psoas and hip flexor stretch on the left, and it's another piriformis stretch on the right, so your right piriformis muscle. Okay, and lower your knee, other side. So right knee pointing down. Start with the correct alignment. Even if you don't feel as better stretch, just get in the right position. It's not about feeling that. It's once you're in the position, what do you feel then? Right, in the right position. Okay, then when you're lined up correctly, your right hip pointing down, your right glutes on, pressing down the top of the foot, you might be like, geez, on this side I can't squeeze my bum on the right side. That tells you a lot about why your right psoas is tight. If your glutes aren't working, your psoas will be tight. Left heel pressing across and lower your knee. Okay, carefully coming off that hip. Let's do one more downward dog. Hands shoulder width apart and lift your hips up and back. And now you should feel and notice like a big difference after doing those big hip stretches. You should feel like a lot better. Your back's freer. Of course, your hips are going to be freer, but mainly your back and your feet. Okay. Whatever is happening in your foot travels up your leg. Okay, whatever is happening in your foot happens in your hip. Okay, so if you find that you're really, like these two toes are really stuck together, like the last two, or that your big toe and these two are really stuck, that'll be through your inner hip, that'll be through your outer hip, and there'll be an issue there. And if you can't work on the hip, you work on the foot. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. Okay, outsides of the feet parallel to the edge of the mat, and you're going to take your hands behind your back, soften your knees at the back, pull them up at the front, outwardly rotate your shoulders, and then you're going to roll your pelvis forwards while you reach your sternum forwards. Lift from the tail to the sternum. This is a standing forward bend. We did a seated one earlier. So you're spreading and pressing down through your feet, outwardly turning your shoulders, kneecaps are lifted, you're pressing your feet down to lift your hips up. The biggest hamstring stretch you can do. And come on up. So just before we finish, place your hands on your spine, the muscles beside your spine, and go into like a little position where you're rolling your bum up to the ceiling and you've got your sternum forwards, and you should feel the muscles beside your spine contracting. And so you're training these muscles to be even and the same and strong, all the while you're lifting up the ones inside. And so it creates this really strong, supple spine with your core, what people call core now, right? But your back should be just as strong as your core. Anyway, we'll continue that work. So I'll see you next week. Thank you.